From time to time, I get emails asking if I listen to classical music at all. The short answer is yes, I listen to a great deal of classical music. I was extremely fortunate to have grown up going to see the world-renowned Cleveland Orchestra on a regular basis, and now that I've moved to New York City, I'm a frequent guest for the New York Philharmonic. With this in mind, I believe that there's a number of classical pieces you absolutely have to know by name the instant you hear them. Granted, these are only a very small portion of the most famous classical pieces and things you should absolutely know, and I'll certainly be getting into more of them as the year progresses. Many different versions of these songs can be found all across YouTube, so you just type it in and you're good to go, so let's get our classical on. The first piece I want to talk about is Vivaldis Spring from his Four Seasons. Composed in 1723, this is without question Vivaldi's best known work, and in the Four Seasons cycle, this is the first piece. Perfectly representing the Baroque style of classical music, the mood and tempo varies throughout the piece, but the underlying theme is unforgettable. But what most people don't know is that this piece played a massive role in defining what the modern solo sound would look like and sound like. Before this work, there was really no set form to the solo concerto, and it's the way that Vivaldi set the violin in front of the rest of the arrangement that would become the way most musicians would go. The second piece I want to talk to you about is the first movement from Tchaikovsky's First Piano Concerto. Completed in 1875 and revised twice after that fact, this remains not only one of Tchaikovsky's best known pieces, but perhaps the best known piano concerto ever. The opening brings a power and a stature that instantly draws you in before sliding into a slightly more subtle sound. And in many ways, you can see this as the trademark of Tchaikovsky's pieces. This famous opening exists thanks to the 1888 revision where Tchaikovsky decided to make the piano notes far more aggressive and louder in tone. And that's what really gives this piece its unforgettable mood. The third selection I'm going to look at is Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, or as most people call it, Beethoven's Fifth. Honestly, this may very well be the most iconic four-note sequence in all of music history. And I guarantee that while you might not know that it is Beethoven's Fifth, the second you hear it, you'll know it. Written between 1804 and 1808, this piece actually took so long because he was working on other projects at the time. And when this piece premiered on December 22nd of 1808, Beethoven's Sixth also premiered. Though most are unaware, that premiere went very badly, as the orchestra only had a single rehearsal, and at one point Beethoven actually had to stop things and restart the piece from the beginning. But even with this, working in his heroic key of C minor, Beethoven's Fifth stands as one of the most recognizable and outright important moments in all of culture. The fourth piece we're going to look at is Griegs Morning. While his name may not be as familiar as the others, once you hear this piece, you'll definitely know it. Countless films and television shows and even more cartoons have utilized this piece over the years. And it's actually properly titled Morning Mood, and it comes from the Ibsen play Peer Gynt. Written in 1875 for the play, the piece actually backed the point where the sun rises at the beginning of Act 4, Scene 4. And in modern times, it would be hard to associate it with anything else other than a sunrise. The final piece I want to look at is Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, or as some people know it, BWV 565. When it comes to organ works, this is probably the most famous in all of history, and from video games to Phantom of the Opera to B-grade movies, this gets used more than almost any other classical piece. But here's the catch. Since the 1980s, scholars have debated whether or not Bach actually wrote this piece or not, as much like his other organ arrangements, there's actually no signed manuscript in existence. But regardless of the actual composer, this piece originated in Germany in the first half of the 1700s, and since then it remains one of the most important classical works in history. So there you go, a handful of the most essential classical works of all time. I definitely suggest you check them all out. And be here every day for all the music news, reviews, and knowledge you'll ever need.